The people who settled the land in Calvert County in the 17th century, including the Dunkirk area, were Europeans. Many were farmers and referred to as colonists due to the fact that Maryland was one of the original 13 colonies. Roads did not exist. The earliest settlements existed along waterways. Many were near early port towns and churches. No matter where people settled, farming in the colonial period was difficult. Land had to be cleared to create fields. Fields were often cleared and tilled by hand using primitive tools. Some remains from the southern Maryland colonists have been studied by the Smithsonian. By studying the wear and tear of these remains, a grim snapshot of a colonist's life was revealed. Shoulders were strained by heavy lifting and hauling. Clay pipes were puffed habitually through clenched teeth. Bones were brittle by disease and malnutrition. Many died young. It was a hard life. There were no stores in the New World. Everything had to be made and food had to be grown. A letter was found from an early colonist written to family members in England. In it, he wrote the following was needed:
seed, wheat, rye, barley, and oats, kernel of pears and apples for making thereafter cider and perry, and the stones and seeds of all those fruit and roots and herbs which he desireth to have.
Choice seeds and saplings brought from abroad were valuable and sought after. These items were so valuable they were often entrusted with the master of the ship. They crossed the ocean protected, locked in the captain's cabin, and kept in special boxes. In 1612, Virginia colonist John Rolfe obtained Spanish tobacco seeds from northern South America. The tobacco he grew from these seeds was different from the bitter tobacco the local Native Americans grew and smoked. People liked it. Word spread and demand grew for the tobacco he was cultivating. The charter for Maryland was granted in 1632. Soon after this, tobacco farming spread from Virginia into Maryland. Maryland tobacco planters then realized something strange was happening in their fields. Using the same seeds from the same sources with identical cultivation and curing practices, they were producing tobacco with a different flavor. By the middle of the 17th century, planters recognized two distinct types of tobacco, sweet-scented and Orinoco. Orinoco tobacco was grown along the Patuxent River and on the middle western shore of Maryland. This tobacco later became known as Maryland 32. It became well known and in high demand for its mild, light, and smooth taste. Colonists soon discovered it was wise to invest in and grow tobacco. The fashion for drinking tobacco, as smoking was known, took hold in England and France for its reputed medicinal benefits as well as for pleasure. Despite the fact that the colonial agriculture was primitive, it was exceedingly profitable. Colonists rushed to establish tobacco plantation, even delaying the construction of durable homes in order to acquire as much land and labor as possible. Promissory notes payable in tobacco were used as currency, with the cost of almost every commodity given in pounds of tobacco. The annual tobacco crop brought in as much money as all other American exports totaled. The Maryland government established 130 port towns, 22 of which were located on the Patuxent River, to export tobacco. 3 of these towns were near the Dunkirk area: Nottingham, Lower Marlborough, and Bogues Bay. Port towns imported and exported goods and merchandise arriving by ship. These designated ports were first urban centers created in Maryland. 203 ships entered the Patuxent River Waterway between 1695 and 1701. The average was 42 per year, with a record number of 59 in 1699. Ships were important due to the fact that settlers were dependent on England for many of their necessities. These ships brought much-needed goods and supplies from other countries to the colonists. When they departed, they were filled with tobacco, bound for London and other ports. Moving tobacco from farms to ports was a challenge. Planters started transporting tobacco in large wooden barrels called hogsheads, which could be rolled. Layers of tobacco were compressed into the hogshead. A single hogshead could hold 1,000 pounds of tobacco. Ships could carry as much as 50,000 pounds of tobacco on a single journey. The land in and around Dunkirk became known for its good farmland. An early newspaper advertisement read, "Dunkirk, 11 miles from Upper Marlborough and 2 miles from Ferry Landing. Land is easily tilled and can be bought for $6 per acre. Land produces 15 bushels of wheat, 25 oats, 60 corn, and 850 pounds of tobacco per acre." Agriculture was the primary factor shaping the early Maryland Chesapeake region's economy and Dunkirk for many, many years. It provided a livelihood for its residents directly and indirectly. Sadly, many colonists used slave labor to build their wealth. It is important to recognize that slavery in Maryland lasted over 200 years. Calvert County was built using slave labor on its farms, fields, and in the development of its communities. By the time the Civil War ended, African Americans made up 62% of the county's population. They rose from slavery, achieved freedom, founded churches, schools, and their labor fueled the county's economy. John Stuart Skinner, a native of Calvert County, grew up on a local farm and became an expert agriculturalist. He was the founder of The American Farmer, the first American agriculture magazine. In addition to tobacco, other crops were grown in the Dunkirk area that included wheat, hay, soybeans, potatoes, tomatoes, and other vegetables. There is also record of a few orchards. Up until the mid-1900s, corn, wheat, and hay was most often used on the farms where they were grown, furnishing food for the animals and bread for the family. By the mid-1990s, the decline of tobacco use threatened to force a large percentage of the farmers out of farming. Because tobacco had been the primary crop for centuries, the region lacked infrastructure for other agricultural enterprises. Tobacco farming was in jeopardy. In 2000, Maryland legislators instituted an innovative program to help Southern Maryland tobacco farmers stay in agriculture. Commonly known as the Tobacco Buyout, it was the first such program of its type in America. To those farmers who committed to stop growing tobacco and yet remain in agriculture, this program offered financial support as they transitioned to alternative types of farming. Some farmers retired, some sold their land, while others used the funds received from the tobacco buyout to invest in equipment which would help them diversify their operations. Due in part to the tobacco buyout, today's Calvert County farmers still exist and are producers of fruits, vegetables, meats, nursery, and horticulture products. The tobacco buyout was the final step in the transition away from a 350-year history of a tobacco-based economy in Calvert County and the Dunkirk area. While the legacy of tobacco agriculture remains, many farms have successfully transitioned into equine facilities, vineyards, craft beverage operations, and agritourism. Many of these operations can be seen in the Dunkirk area as you drive Route 4 or if you venture off onto the back roads. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video and will watch other Dunkirk videos to be released soon. The master plan for the Dunkirk Town Center is being updated. If you would like to participate in the Town Center Master Plan update process, we would like your input. Please visit the Calvert County Department of Planning and Zoning website for more information.